Hello and welcome to Hessens County. Thank you for joining us again today for another TTRPG Talk. This series discusses tabletop role-playing games and related materials, suggests ideas for your own games, and takes a look at some of my own materials. Today we're going to be continuing our hunt for SRDs available for the lesser-loved Dice Jam by taking a look at a system that uses the D100, otherwise known as the percentile die. Before we talk about this SRD today, though, let's take a little bit of a deeper look at the D100 itself. This die also has a long legacy in TTRPGs, though seemingly not as popular as the D20 system when we're taking a look at English-speaking role-playing circles. A major advantage that the D100 has going for it is that using one makes the statistical math relatively easier to understand. Because everything is out of 100, the odds of success or failure are easier to intuit without having to crunch the numbers for those of us who are used to base 10 numbering systems. Another is that the D100 is generally more versatile than other dice due to the actual size of the D100, the number of numbers that you have to work with. Therefore, you can actually use it to simulate identical or near identical odds for pretty much any other die that you can think of in the polyhedral set, as well as many others that don't practically exist. Chelsum's basic role-playing system is a notable entry that relies on this die, serving as the basis or the inspiration for a number of popular games and related systems like RuneQuest and its derivatives of Legends, OpenQuest or Mithras, Stormbringer, as well as the various Cthulhu, Delta Green, and Warhammer RPGs. Other systems that utilize D100 include the Saber role-playing system and Maelstrom. While you could use the basic role-playing system and some of these others for your game thanks to open game licenses, I have a simpler and more easily hackable option for us to examine today. Created by Loreshaper Games, the Initiated SRD utilizes a blackjack roll-under system using the D100. We'll go into a bit more of the specifics as to the way Initiated uses this common formula, but the basics are that each player uses a number of character elements that add together to create the check or the roll's base target number. The game master might then adjust this target number up or down based on the difficulty of the action or other outside modifiers. While a D100 system with its bigger numbers can result in unneeded granularity or a high number of modifiers in some versions that could make rolls complicated and time-consuming, Initiated largely avoids this. One way that this is done is through the use of margins. As I mentioned, Initiated is a blackjack-style game, so the closer you are to your target number, the greater your level of success. This is measured by consulting the tens place on your successful roll result. For example, if I have a target of 65 and I roll a 60, then I succeeded and my margin was 6. This means that I know my character had a pretty high quality success without having to do any further math or subtraction or anything along those lines. This mechanic also simulates the pretty real phenomenon that you can see where a highly skilled or prepared character or person in real life is going to not only have a greater chance of, succeeding in whatever action they're trying to do, but they're more likely to have an even better overall outcome. To illustrate this in a relatively practical way, margin on an attack roll actually increases the amount of damage that's being done to the target, while it decreases the amount of damage done to the player when you're making a successful defense roll. If I am wearing armor that boosts my target number on defense rolls, I am not only decreasing the chance of getting hit, but I am also, because I'm shifting the ability for me to get a higher margin number, I am also making it more likely that I will be able to negate any harm that would come from me getting hit, or at least reduce it. Presumably, this could also be used in social variations on combat, like if you're having a great debate or something. Another way we preserve simplicity in Initiated is by limiting the number of factors that the player can add together to a normal roll's target number. Each character has 3 primary layers when created: their attributes, specializations, and things. Even if you have more than one item in a layer that can apply, only one from each layer counts towards your target number. Let's break this down a bit more. Each character in Base Initiated has 5 attributes. The SRD provides 2 different suggested ranges of numbers that you can assign to each of these stats at character creation for either a high-powered or low-powered game that you can see on the screen here. They may seem a little low, but please remember that this is just the start of creating our target number. Your character's specializations represent learned skills and physical adaptations and are expressed in short I can statements like I can cook, I can be convincing, or I can see beyond the visible light spectrum. These replace a long list of skills that a lot of other D100 systems have a tendency to use that greatly increase the number of numbers that you have to keep track of. A character in Initiated will start with 3 specializations with a bonus of a plus 20, a plus 15 bonus, or a plus 10 bonus. So you get 1 with each of those numbers. These bonuses can be added to any action where this capability that the character has would be useful. Things are titles, spells, or actual items of power that your character might possess that influences the world around them. They each have a limited number of uses, but can provide a roll modifier and a bonus margin to each roll on which they are used. At creation, your character will have 12 points that you can spend on various things, and each of the things can have up to 6 points spent on them. Up to 3 points on a margin bonus, so a bonus of plus 1, plus 2, or plus 3. Or 3 points that can be spent on the modifier for your roll, being a plus 5, plus 10, or plus 15. You can potentially switch out things during downtimes at the GM's discretion. The other major elements that could potentially impact our roll, but don't necessarily come into play every time, are energy and setbacks. Energy is kind of like momentum in a Modifius game or some other similar token mechanic in other systems. Each character in Base Initiated starts off with a pool of 3 energy. They can either add plus 20 to a target number before the player rolls, re-roll, and then keep the second result if you didn't like your result, or you can add plus 3 to your roll's margin if you want to have a greater impact. Setbacks, meanwhile, are both an interactive means of applying consequences to a character and indicate things like injuries without having to rely on abstract hit points. Setbacks apply a stackable -5 to target numbers for any rolls related to this potential setback. So, for example, an injury might apply to a physical actions. While you can gain injury setbacks from combat, these setbacks can also apply to demonstrate your character gaining self-doubt because of a significant failure, or social stigma, emotional stress, sickness, or maybe financial debt. You can slowly recover from these setbacks during downtimes, as well as occasionally attempt a special test to help overcome an additional number of layers of setback. Unlike in some of the SRDs that we've talked about so far in this series, Initiated includes specific recommendations on advancement mechanics. While it does not provide recommendations on how or when a character should gain XP, besides saying that this is at the discretion of the Game Master, it does provide recommendations on costs for advancement. I will not go into details now, but of course you can see them in the chart on the screen right now. Obviously, feel free to pause if you wish to look deeper into it. Now, I have discussed a lot of rules here, but it's important to note that this SRD is not just mechanics. In fact, about half of the actual manual that the SRD is written in is occupied not by rules, but instead contains information for creators. This includes an explanation on why the author chose to go with a D100 versus other options like D10s or D20s. It also includes information on how you might want to handle certain edge cases, why negative margin is not a thing, and it also makes suggestions on how you might want to hack various parts of the system outlined, like making modifications to attributes or other things like that. If you find yourself wanting to potentially utilize the Initiated system, it does use the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license, so you can commercialize it as long as you include legal language about your reliance on this SRD to create your game. They have also kindly provided initiated logos and taglines to clearly indicate your game's lineage to prospective players. And that was Initiated. I feel that this is a pretty good system to use whenever you have a game that you might want to try a D100 system with, but you want it to be lighter than your usual big name D100 systems like the ones we mentioned previously, either because you want it to be a bit easier to pick up or it's geared more towards new players. Related links can be found in the description down below. Now, go out there with the big dice and remember to rate your itch purchases. If you'd like to see more material on this topic, please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel or check out the blog at hessenscounty.com.